The medial and lateral tilt exercise in the level 2 is done a little bit differently. We're going to start out with the foot directly in front of you in neutral position, and we're going to roll to the outside, just like we would in the Neuro Warm Up Level 1. However, at this point, we're going to roll back down, step forward and out into a lateral lunge, and then roll to the medial surface. Then we're going to do it again. We're going to step back. This time, we're going to turn those toes out 45 degrees, roll out, roll back down, move back to neutral, again stepping out, maintaining good posture, rolling to the inside. We'll reset one more time. Now we're going to turn the toes in 45 degrees, rolling out to the outside, back to neutral, repositioning the foot, stepping out, rolling in. Just like in the level 1 Neuro Warm Up, the targets are exactly the same. For the medial tilt, you have the inside of the foot. For the lateral tilt, you have the lateral side of the foot, or outside. Make sure that in each one of these positions, you're hitting the target. As you do that, you're going to open up the joint in different areas than you have before, and you get even greater benefit from the exercise. The toe pull exercise in level 1 Neuro Warm Up, we're going to continue in level 2, only this time we're going to make it a little bit more fluid. We're going to set up for it this way. We're going to start with the foot back behind us in the outside toe pull position. Now, we're going to add a little coordination to it. With each pulse of the lead leg, we're going to change the position of the rear foot. In other words, we're going to move from outside to middle to inside toe pull positions, making sure to hit the target with each one of the toe pulls. If you don't remember the targets exactly, for the inside toe pull, it's here. For the middle, directly in the center of the foot, and for the outside, right here. Make sure that you're focused on each of those, even though you're moving a little bit more quickly. You want to keep the pressure out of the toes and feel the stretch only in that designated target area for each one of those exercises. If you're looking for a coordination challenge, the ankle figure eights from the level 2 Neuro Warm Up are your ticket. As you practice these, you're going to find an increasing level of coordination throughout your whole body, but particularly in your feet and ankles. Let me show you how this one works. You're going to point the toes down to one corner of the box, and then we're going to move to the other corners doing figure eights in each direction. So we're going to start with the toes down and in. We'll do a figure eight that goes up and down. Then we're going to go down and in again, and now we'll start an in and out figure eight. Work these in both directions, again trying to keep them nice and smooth. Next, point the toes down and out. Do an up and down figure eight. And last but not least, start with the toes up and out, and you're going to do an inside-outside figure eight. You have to visualize the figure eights as you do them. Keep the foot and ankle in motion, but keep it slow and controlled. The faster you go, the less coordination you're going to develop. You want to make sure that this is one that you have full control of, so work it slowly and carefully at home. The pegboard drill found in the level 2 Neuro Warm Up is one of the more unique Z Health exercises. It's really an integration exercise for your feet, ankles, knees, hips, pelvis, and low back. It works like this. Take a slightly wider than shoulder width stance, then slowly raise the heel of one foot, dropping the knee of that leg to the inside of the body. All you're going to do now is push that heel toward the ground and joint by joint twist through to the opposite side. So you're really doing exactly the same motion on each foot. From here, you then transition into an anterior 45-degree lunge. Stay nice and tall. Again, the lead leg, raise the heel, drop the knee in, and repeat the exercise there. It should not look like this. There should be just knees moving forward. We should see them rotating in and out. If they're not rotating in and out, you're actually not doing the drill correctly. Make sure that you practice this on both sides. Again, starting with that lead leg. As you do this, your ability to create torque, rotational power, and fluidity throughout your lower body is going to go through the roof. In the level 2 Neuro Warm Up, we have 3 different closed chain knee circles that we're going to be practicing. The first one is just like the one in level 1. It's the neutral stance, closed chain knee circle. So lock the knees back, drop them out to the side, circle around, and relock the knees. Make sure as you're working on this one, you try and keep the ankles still and keep the heels on the ground. From here, what you're going to do next is you're going to step out into a lateral lunge. Here's the key on this one. Make sure that you begin with 70% of your weight on that outside lunging leg. From here, I'm going to drop to the outside, come around, and incorporate my other knee into the circle. Go in both directions. As you do this, watch your posture and make sure that you're not winding up flexed forward. From the lateral lunge, we step into the anterior lunge. Once again, 70% of our weight on that lead leg. Nice tall posture. We're going to drop to the outside and come around. As you do this one, you may find that your heel has to come up off the ground. In this case, that's okay. Practice these on both legs. Try and make sure that the circle stays smooth and is symmetric on both sides of the body. In the level 2 neuro warm-up, we're going to add 2 new hip exercises for you. We call these hip pendulums. These are very similar to our hanging knee circles, only now instead of focusing on the knee, we're going to focus on the hip. Once again, we're going to be standing on one leg. Push the heel of the stance leg down, push the crown of the head up. Keep your pelvis facing forward, and we're going to start just a basic right to left hip pendulum. If you keep the foot and leg completely relaxed, up at 90 degrees bend here, that's going to target the hip exclusively. Do that on each side, just so you get a feel for it. At this point, we're then going to move into our anterior-posterior, or front to back pendulum. Rotate the knee out so it's pointing at the wall beside you, or as close as you can get it while keeping your pelvis forward. At that point, you're going to start the same pendulum type exercise. Practice these on both sides. You're going to find them very freeing for the hips. In the level 2 neuro warm-up, we have 2 closed chain hip circle exercises. Very specific way I want you to do these, so let's take a look at it. Step out into a lateral lunge position, again making sure that you stay nice and tall through the spine. Lock the knee of the non-lunging leg, 70% of your weight out here. Stay nice and tall. Go ahead and put your hand on your hip so that you can focus on that, and then you're going to move the trunk in a circular motion just like this. As you do that, you should feel a nice mobilization happening in the hip itself. From the lateral lunge, you'll step up forward into an anterior lunge, and you're going to repeat it again. Make sure to keep this knee locked. If it unlocks, you wind up taking pressure off the hip. Now, the other idea in this is to move the trunk and not just the pelvis. In other words, this is not the exercise that we want. We want to see the whole body moving. It creates a very different dynamic stretch on the hip, and the subsequent benefits are huge. When we look at the pelvis in the level 2 neuro warm-up, you've already made some significant progress from level 1, so we're going to go right into full circles. We start the full circles with a slight knee bend, and you go right into this hula hoop motion. You should at this point have fairly good isolated pelvic control. In other words, I want you just moving the pelvis, not moving the low back, not moving the shoulders, but just the pelvis, okay? From here, you're going to step forward into an anterior lunge, and once again, repeat the movement. Make sure, again, as you do this, you're not getting the shoulders involved. Keep it isolated, make the belt line kind of the boundary zone for the movement. In other words, you don't want to go any higher than that. Last but not least, you'll step back into a posterior lunge, 70% of your weight on the rear leg, toes facing forward, and once again, repeat the pelvic circle. Keep your abs relaxed, nice long spine, release all the tension in the body, and just focus on moving the pelvis. The level 2 hourglass is exactly like the level 1 hourglass. We're not going to be adding a lunge position or anything to it at this point. Just make sure that you're focused on the fact that the head is going to go one way and the hips are going to go the opposite way. Moving around in a circle. The most common error that we see at this point is keeping the head still. So people are doing this. Okay, this is not the exercise. Make sure that the head is going with the body. That's a great refinement to add as you practice level 2. In the level 2 neuro warm-up, we're going to look at a very different lumbar circle than you've been practicing. What we're going to be doing is working in a lateral lunge position, and we're going to do a full circle. Let's take a look at what it looks like. You're going to step out into a lateral lunge. Again, 70% of your weight is on this leg. It needs to stay on this leg. You're going to go ahead and lock the knee of this leg. Nice tall posture. Now we're going to start our first rep to the outside of the body. So I'm going to tilt to the outside, come around. At this point, I'm going to bring my hands to my chest. and move all the way around. You'll notice that I never lose the lunge position in this particular leg. A common error that we'll see is this. That's cheating. Don't do that at home. Okay? You next move to an inside full circle. So we're going to do that on the opposite leg. I'll step out into a lateral lunge position. This time I'm going to begin my tilt to the inside of the body. Again, keeping my weight out here. Drop down. And finish up here. Once again, keeping my weight on that lunge leg. It's a lot tougher than it looks on camera, so give yourself time to practice this to gain proficiency with it. In the level 2 Neuro Warm Up, we have 3 thoracic exercises that we're going to be doing. These are more advanced, so just make sure that you're practicing regularly at home. You'll have them before you know it. We're going to start off with a full circle in neutral stance. So nice tall spine, slight knee bend, and we're going to go ahead and move into that full circle. At this point in your training, you really should be able to isolate the thoracic spine from the shoulder blades. If you watch yourself in a mirror and you still see a lot of shoulder motion as you're doing this, it's not what we want. Make sure you're keeping those guys still. The next exercise for the thoracic spine is just going to be a basic anterior-posterior glide, only now we're going to add some lunge and twist to it. So I'm going to step out into an anterior lunge position, rotate my body to the outside. So in other words, I'm rotating over my front leg, pointing that direction. At this point, I'm going to get nice and tall, and I'm just going to work that basic anterior-posterior glide. Make sure that you stay nice and tall as you do this one, and don't let your body untwist. A lot of people, as they begin, do this. So make sure that you maintain that twist position. From here, we're going to step back into a posterior 45 lunge, twist to the inside of the body, staying nice and tall, and we'll start that again. Same rule applies here. Don't let yourself untwist. Stay rotated, maintain good posture. Work that on both sides of the body. As you do that, you're going to find it incredibly freeing for your mid-back, your shoulders, and your neck. In the level 2 Neuro Warm Up, we have 4 different neck exercises that we're going to do. Again, we're trying to make this a little more athletic and a little more complicated for your body so that it learns more. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a lunge and twist to our basic neck motions. We're going to step here out into a lateral lunge position. We're going to twist our body to the inside, and from here, using our sternum as our midpoint, we're going to practice basic rotations. So I'm going to rotate 2 times. At this point, I'll come back to my midline, which is my sternum, and I'm going to laterally tilt. I'm going to go ear to shoulder. At that point, I'd unwind my body, step up, step out into the opposite side lateral lunge, twist, and repeat. From there, we then move back to this side. Once again, keeping 70% of our weight on the lunging leg in a tall posture, rotate again. Now we're going to go into our chicken exercises in full circles. So in other words, I'm going to be moving forward and back, and then I'm going to create a nice, comfortable full circle with the cervical spine. As you practice these, you're going to find a very significantly increased neck mobility and also a more integrated ability to control the head and neck while your body's in motion. As you probably realize by now, one of the purposes of the Level 2 Neuro Warm Up is to prepare you for the demands of sport and a lot of real-life activities. When that moves to the shoulder, what we're going to be doing is moving from working with a locked arm to a bent arm. Let's go through the basic series. You're going to start in an anterior lunge position, okay, toes facing forward, 70% of your weight on that lead leg. Now, we're going to bring the arm up, bend it to 90 degrees, and we're going to do our front and back figure 8 in this position. As you do this, just like in level 1, don't let your torso rotate. Keep your torso facing forward. That'll increase the demands on the shoulder itself. From here, you'll transition out into a lateral lunge. In the lateral lunge position, we're going to work our side and cross body, once again with the arm bent at 90 degrees. Working in both directions. Don't let the torso rotate when you're doing the cross body portion. Keep it facing forward. Last but not least, posterior lunge. This one can be tough for people because it's tough for them to keep their feet facing forward. Try and make sure that both feet are facing directly forward, 70% of your weight on that rear lunging leg. Now we're going to do a top and bottom circle. Check the length of your spine, 90-degree bend, and top and bottom figure eights. Okay, very good. As you practice these at home, you gain tremendous mobility in your shoulders and also gain additional coordination moving from flexion to extension, which is vital in everything that we do. We're now going to take a look at one of my very favorite exercises from the Level 2 Neuro Warm Up, which is the elbow. What you're going to do for this is you're going to step out into a lateral lunge position. Same rules apply. 70% of my weight here, toes facing forward, tall posture. I'm going to take my arm opposite my lunging leg out to my side, lock the elbow, palm down. At this point, I'm going to start a top elbow circle, open up the shoulders, lock the elbow with the palm facing up, and then I'm going to bring it in below the arm and relock it with the palm facing up again. So now I'm going to be moving back and forth, creating a basic elbow figure eight, and then I'll reverse it. As you do this, one of the temptations is to really get the shoulder involved. If the shoulder gets involved, we're taking some of the stress off the elbow. That's not what we want to do. So maintain your lunge position, work through those elbow figure eights, and then switch to the opposite side. As you do this, you're going to gain increasing strength through the forearm musculature and a massive amount of coordination for everything you're doing with your hands and arms. Our wrist exercises in Level 2 Neuro Warm Up are some of the most fun that you can master. Great party tricks. Very hard for people to pull off when they haven't learned this stuff. Let me show you the different positions we're going to be working in. In Level 1, you practice going up and down and then side to side. Now we're going to combine those motions and create full circles. You're going to start with your elbows tucked close to your sides. Don't forget your posture as you do this. A lot of people, when they focus on the hands, start to look at them and bend forward. Don't do that. Nice tall posture, crown of the head to the ceiling, heels to the floor, elbows close to the sides. Now we're going to keep the knuckles parallel to the ground. We're going to move the wrist up, out, down, and in. As we smooth that out, we're going to create this nice circular motion, really focused on this portion of our wrist. From here, we're now going to rotate our palms to face one another. We'll move the wrist in, up, back, and down, just like that. Again, as we smooth it out, we now have this fairly unusual wrist circle. If you're doing this for the first time and just learning, you'll feel all kind of new motions happening in your wrist. It's great. You're mobilizing areas that have been stiff for a while. Last but not least, and this is a tough one, we're going to turn the palms facing up. Now we're going to move the wrist up, out, down, and in. Up, out, down, and in. Smooth that out, and all of a sudden, we now have a palms up wrist circle. Practice these as often as you can. You'll get a tremendous amount of mobility in your wrist, and as you do that, you'll also find that you gain strength and coordination in unusual positions that you've never worked in. As we take a look at the hands and fingers in the Level 2 Neuro Warm Up, no great mysteries with this one. We're going to do exactly the same exercises we were doing before with a simple change in focus. Again, we're going to be pushing the heels down, crown of the head up, but now we're going to keep our elbows close to our sides and then rotate our shoulders open as far as we can. Once we're in that position, we're going to spread the fingers. Keep the fingers spread, and you're going to start off with the pinky leads hand circles. You'll find that for most people, this additional stress created by this position will actually increase the mobilization of the joints. So once you've worked your pinky leads hand circles, you go to the index. So start with the palms facing you, and now an index leads palm circle. If you keep those fingers spread, it's even more intense. At this point, we'll go to our fingers. Again, keeping the fingers spread as wide as possible. We'll do our flexion waves. Good, and our extension waves. Fold the fingers down, pull them into extension. Very nice, and don't forget your thumbs. Now, as you do this, again, the tendency is going to be to have this happen because this position does create additional stress and tension in the forearms. Maintain this position as you do that. Your mobility and strength in your hands and fingers and thumb are going to increase exponentially. When we do the jaw exercises in the Level 2 Neuro Warm Up, they're done exactly the same as they were done in the Level 1, only this time we're going to add a complication by rotating the cervical spine. In other words, I'm going to start in a nice neutral position, tall spine. I'm going to rotate my head to the left, open my jaw slightly, and go forward and back and then side to side. Looks pretty simple. I suggest that you practice this in a mirror because what most people do, because of the additional coordination required to move the jaw, is as soon as they rotate the head and begin to move the jaw, they begin to tilt the head into extension, flex it down, or rotate it in some other way. Trying to keep the chin completely level as you rotate and as you go through the different jaw motions. As you do that, you'll find that you're opening up the jaw in a different way, and the mobilization will actually create greater control for you. If you haven't guessed it by now, the purpose of the level 2 exercises are just to make the level 1 exercises a little more complex. When it comes to eye muscle activation, at first we worked in a big circle. The problem with the circle is that many people don't make the circle big enough to really reach the far corners for the eyes. So in the level 2, we're actually going to draw a large rectangle rather than a circle. Same thing holds true. Nice tall posture, push up through the crown of the head, keep the head still, index finger goes out, eyes are going to focus on the index finger. At this point, you're going to start tracing a large rectangle. Make sure that you make it large enough that your eyes are having to really work at the far corners of the rectangle. You're going to do that in each direction. And once you've completed the box once in each direction, you're going to come to one corner, and now you're going to make the eyes track down and across. Come up to the opposite corner, keep the head still, make the eyes track down and across. It's a great warm-up for the eyes. Again, will help with all your vision issues. The next visual training that we're going to do is focal accommodation. Now, focal accommodation, once again, in level 1, we did this way. This does not require as much of the eyes as what we're going to do now, which is we're going to be using both hands close to the face and picking an object in the far distance. So find something directly in front of you that's far away, really get focused on it. Hands are going to be about 4 inches from the eyes, and then you're going to quickly snap the hands closed and then open them, back and forth. Now, while it may look like you're playing peekaboo, that's not what you're doing. If you really concentrate on getting the eyes to focus on the close target, far target, you're going to speed up the focal accommodation process and really strengthen your eyes for sports and real-life activities that involve motion. The muscular activation section of the level 2 neural warm-up is actually quite a bit more demanding than the level 1. You're going to be adding a lot of tension to the body in some more awkward positions, so please go slowly, add the tension like you're turning on a faucet rather than flipping a switch. Be sure that you don't hurt yourself as you do these. The first position, we're going to step out into a lateral lunge, 70% of your weight on that outside leg, twist the body to the inside. At this point, you're going to add tension to the body from the ground up. So in this position, you're going to grip the ground with your feet, work the tension all the way up through the body. Make sure that you don't lean back, lean forward, caveman, do any of those different things. Just stay nice and tall. Once you've worked the tension all the way down to the arms, you should be exhaling this whole time. Watch the release of tension. You want to do it with a knee bend on both sides. That's a real safe way to let go of it. From here, you're going to now transition into an anterior lunge. In the anterior lunge position, your toes are going to face forward, rotate or twist the body to the outside, push the hands away. Instead of starting at the feet now, we're going to start at the hands. Add tension to the hands and arms, chest, back, abdomen. Work your way all the way down to the feet. You're getting nice and tight, nice and tight. Once again, the release is a bend with both knees, just like that. Work these on both sides, in both directions. The more you do this, you're going to find your strength increasing in awkward positions in sports and in life. Your body needs this constant practice in order to be coordinated and strong in any position you can get into.